Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at an example of how to write an equation of a line that is perpendicular to another line. So it says here, write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the given point and is perpendicular to the graph of the given equation. So remember, we learned what we learned about perpendicular lines. Perpendicular is that in a perpendicular line, the slope M needs to be the opposite reciprocal of the slope in the other equation. So remember that opposite means that it changes sign. So if it's positive, it becomes negative, and if it's negative, it becomes positive, and the reciprocal means write it as a fraction and flip it. So let's take a look at example number 19 here that we see here. We see that our equation is y equals negative 3x plus 2, and our point that they want the line to go through, our new line, is going to be 0, 0. Okay? So what we're going to do is the same thing we did with the parallel examples, which is we're going to keep the same slope, except now we're not going to keep the same slope, because in order to make a perpendicular line, we need to take this slope of negative 3 and get the opposite reciprocal. So if the original slope is negative 3, what's our new slope going to be? Well, the opposite of negative is positive, and the reciprocal of 3 is the fraction 1 over 3. So our slope, in order to get the opposite reciprocal, our slope goes from being negative 3 to being positive 1/3. That's the opposite reciprocal. Then we follow the same steps we followed before to create an equation in slope-intercept form. So remember, we're going to go ahead and say y equals, our new slope is 1/3 x plus b. Then we're going to substitute our x and y values. And this one is kind of simple because everything is 0. So 0 equals 1/3 x. I should have substituted 0 for x. 1/3 times 0 plus b. And 0 times anything is 0. So basically, hopefully you see here that we end up with b equals 0. So our y-intercept in this occasion is 0. So now we go back into our equation right here, which is originally y equals 1/3 x plus b, but now we know what b is. B is 0. Now we know what b is. B is 0. So we write our equation is y equals 1/3 x plus 0. That is our answer. Of course, once again, as we've talked about before, adding 0 to something doesn't change it, so I can write this in a simpler version, which is just y equals 1/3 x. Now let's go ahead and take a look at another example here. Let's do question number 22 here, which now our equation is x minus 2y equals 7, which this is not in slope-intercept form, so we're going to have to do some work here, correct? And our point is negative 3, 2. So let's go ahead and get to work. Let's first write our equation. X minus 2y equals 7. And as we discussed before, in slope-intercept form, we want x to be on the right-hand side of the equation. So I'm going to have to magic bridge x and drop it right here, making this negative 2y equals negative x plus 7. And remember who's invisible here in front of this x. It's a 1. Okay? And what I'm going to need to do next is divide everything by negative 2. So now I get the equation y equals positive half x plus 7 over 2. And that's actually negative 7 over 2. So let me erase this and fix that. Minus 7 over 2. But I really don't care about this 7 over 2 because my equation is going to have a new y-intercept because I need to work it out using this point. All I really care about right now is my slope of the original line is 1/2. But I need the opposite reciprocal I need the opposite reciprocal of the slope 1/2. So the opposite reciprocal of 1/2 is negative 2 over 1, or just negative 2. So now I'm going to go ahead and plug in negative 2 into my equation. Y equals negative 2x plus b, and substitute my values. My y value is 2, so this becomes 2 equals negative 2 times my x value plus b, and my x value is negative 3. So now I just worked this out. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. And now I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. And I get b equals negative 4. Now I know what b is. I go back into my original equation here with my negative 2x as my slope, and I stick in negative 4 for b, and I get y equals negative 2x minus 4. And so this is our new equation that gives a line that is perpendicular to the original equation, which is x minus 2y equals 7.